It was a cold November morning when the news broke. A discovery so horrifying, it sent shockwaves across the nation. Chloe Monroe, the glamorous 28-year-old Instagram star adored by millions, was found brutally murdered in her lavish downtown apartment. Chloe's life had always seemed perfect, a sparkling dream made real. Her posts were filled with designer outfits, luxury vacations, and moments of unfiltered beauty. To her 1.2 million followers, she was more than an influencer. She was an icon of success, someone who appeared to have it all. But that morning, the illusion of her perfect life shattered. Her close friend, Mia Reynolds, had gone to check on Chloe after 2 days of silence. When Chloe didn't answer her calls or texts, Mia's worry turned to dread. Stepping into the penthouse, Mia was confronted with a nightmare she would never forget. Chloe's lifeless body lay sprawled across the marble floor, her makeup hauntingly intact, surrounded by a pool of blood. The apartment told a story of chaos. Overturned furniture, a shattered phone, and a wine glass smashed against the wall hinted at a struggle. But there were no signs of forced entry. Whoever had done this had walked in without resistance. As investigators combed through the scene, they uncovered disturbing details. Chloe's wrists bore faint bruises, her palms carried defensive scratches, and a heavy blow to her temple had ended her life. The murder weapon. A crystal award she had recently received for her work, now blood-stained and lying on the floor. The perfect image Chloe had curated online was quickly replaced by a series of dark revelations. Beneath the glamorous surface, her life was far more complicated. She had been juggling secret relationships, navigating financial troubles, and harboring insecurities she had never shown the world. Detective Serena Carter, a seasoned investigator, took charge of the case. She had seen her share of tragedies, but this one stood out. With no forced entry, the killer was likely someone Chloe knew. But who? A jealous friend? A scorned lover? A business rival? Suspicions quickly fell on Owen Graves, a quiet accountant who had been romantically involved with Chloe. His alibi, though convenient, left Serena unconvinced. But Owen wasn't the only suspect. Chloe's life was filled with people who had reasons to envy or despise her. Every step of the investigation revealed new twists. Betrayals, lies, and hidden grudges painted a complex picture of Chloe's final days. The glamorous life she had so carefully curated for her followers was crumbling under the weight of its secrets. The nation watched, transfixed, as each revelation unfolded. But the truth about who killed Chloe Monroe and why was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Chloe Monroe was a name that glittered in the world of social media, a rising star whose 1.2 million followers hung on her every post. Her life appeared to be a flawless mosaic of luxury and success. From designer gowns to exotic vacations, Chloe's feed was a window into a world most could only dream of. Yet behind the filtered perfection, there were cracks that only a few ever glimpsed. On the morning of her death, Chloe's penthouse stood eerily silent, a stark contrast to the lively persona she portrayed online. Her close friend, Mia Reynolds, had grown increasingly anxious. 2 days had passed without a single message or post from Chloe. An unusual silence for someone who thrived on sharing every moment of her life. Mia decided to check on her. She entered the building, greeted by the familiar scent of Chloe's signature candle wafting through the air. But as she stepped into the apartment, the carefully crafted image of perfection crumbled. There, in the middle of the lavish living room, lay Chloe Monroe's lifeless body. Her makeup, eerily pristine, contrasted with the brutality of her death. Yet, Despite the chaos, there were no signs of forced entry. Someone had walked into Chloe's sanctuary without breaking in. Mia's scream echoed through the building, summoning neighbors and eventually the police. What had happened in this picture-perfect home? As detectives began their investigation, one question loomed large. Was this the work of a random intruder? Or was Chloe's killer someone who knew her all too well? The scene was chaotic, but there was something deliberate about it. Nothing appeared stolen. Detective Carter couldn't shake the sense that this crime had been intensely personal, a crime of passion carried out by someone Chloe likely knew. The investigation quickly expanded to Chloe's personal life. Friends and family were called in for interviews, and the image of the glamorous influencer began to unravel. Beneath the surface, Chloe had been grappling with financial issues that belied her luxurious image. Her relationships, too, were far from perfect. Strained friendships, jealous ex-lovers, and secret romances painted a picture of a woman whose real life was far more complicated than her curated posts suggested. As the list of potential suspects grew, so did the complexity of the case. Chloe's seemingly perfect life was a facade, and Detective Carter knew that somewhere in the web of secrets lay the motive for her murder. The question was, who had the most to lose if Chloe's hidden world was exposed? Chloe had been living a double life, one where every glittering post masked a storm of hidden struggles. Financial records revealed that her opulent lifestyle was more illusion than reality. Chloe had been living far beyond her means, juggling mounting debt while portraying an image of effortless luxury. Behind the scenes, she had scrambled to secure brand deals and sponsorships to keep her head above water, her financial troubles spiraling into desperation. Her personal life was equally complicated. Chloe had been involved in multiple secret relationships, each cloaked in its own web of jealousy and deceit. One such relationship was with Owen Graves, a reserved accountant who had recently become a significant figure in her life. While Owen seemed unassuming, his alibi for the night of Chloe's murder raised more questions than answers. Then there was Layla Torres, Chloe's former best friend turned bitter rival. Layla, a fellow influencer, had openly clashed with Chloe over business opportunities and stolen sponsorships. Their friendship had soured into a public feud that many believed was just professional competition. But was there something more sinister beneath the surface? And finally, there was Jason Marks, an ex-boyfriend who had never quite let go of Chloe. Jason had been vocal about his feelings of betrayal, and messages between him and Chloe hinted at unresolved tensions. As Detective Carter pieced together these fragments of Chloe's life, a disturbing picture began to form. The glamorous influencer had been juggling far more than anyone knew: financial pressures, personal betrayals, and professional rivalries. Each thread seemed to lead to someone with a reason to want Chloe out of the picture. Detective Carter knew she was getting closer to the truth. The investigation took a critical turn as Detective Carter honed in on Owen Graves. At first glance, Owen was an unlikely suspect, mild-mannered, professional, and seemingly devoted to Chloe. But beneath his calm demeanor lay a series of inconsistencies that couldn't be ignored. Owen's alibi for the night of Chloe's murder was shaky at best. He claimed to have spent the evening working late at his office, but security footage from his building showed him leaving hours earlier than he'd admitted. When confronted, Owen faltered, offering vague explanations that only deepened Detective Carter's suspicions. New forensic evidence added weight to those doubts. Fingerprints matching Owen's were found on the crystal award used as the murder weapon, and on the wine glass shattered against Chloe's apartment wall. More chillingly, DNA samples recovered from under Chloe's fingernails suggested she had fought back against her attacker, evidence pointing to a violent struggle in her final moments. The case against Owen appeared to solidify when witnesses came forward with accounts of a heated argument between him and Chloe just days before her death. According to sources close to Chloe, Owen had grown increasingly possessive, and their relationship had become strained. The argument, overheard at a private dinner, reportedly ended with Owen storming out, visibly angry. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Owen's guilt wasn't a foregone conclusion. Detective Carter entertained alternative theories, refusing to let her focus narrow too soon. Could the fingerprints and DNA have been planted to frame him? Or were there other suspects with equal motive and opportunity, such as Chloe's jealous rival, Layla Torres, or her scorned ex-boyfriend, Jason Marks? As more layers of Chloe's life unraveled, the case grew more complex. What seemed like a straightforward path to justice was anything but. The arrest of Owen Graves sent shockwaves through the community, with news outlets and social media platforms buzzing with speculation. Once a quiet and reserved accountant, Owen had now become the center of a media frenzy. Cameras and reporters camped outside the courthouse, eager for the latest developments. The trial of Owen Graves quickly turned into a spectacle. Inside the courtroom, the drama was equally intense. Mia Reynolds, Chloe's closest friend, took the stand, recounting her discovery of Chloe's body and her final interactions with her. Her emotional testimony painted a picture of the woman she had known, a loving, vibrant individual who had been caught in a web of secrets and lies. Mia's words tugged at the hearts of those in the courtroom, while also casting doubt on Owen's character, suggesting that their relationship had been far from ideal. Forensic experts took the stand next, their testimony reinforcing the evidence that had been gathered. The fingerprints on the murder weapon, the DNA under Chloe's nails, and the scratches on Owen's hands were all linked directly to him. Despite the seemingly irrefutable evidence, Owen's defense team painted a different picture. They argued that Owen's alibi, though shaky, was not conclusive enough to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They suggested that Chloe's death could have been the result of a botched robbery, or that someone else with a hidden vendetta might have been responsible. The media, ever hungry for a sensational story, pored over every detail. Chloe's followers, once captivated by her glamorous posts, now found themselves mourning the death of a woman they had idolized. Their Instagram feeds, once filled with perfect photos of Chloe's life, were now filled with tributes, questions, and suspicions. They struggled to reconcile the woman they had followed with the gruesome reality of her death. As the trial came to an end, the jury deliberated. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, with everyone waiting for the final verdict. Finally, the jury returned. Owen Graves was found guilty of the murder of Chloe Monroe. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, a somber reminder of the cost of secrets and betrayal. Chloe Monroe's murder left a deep scar in the lives of those who knew her and the millions who followed her online. Her family and friends were left to grapple with the harsh reality of losing someone so young, so full of potential. For Mia, the pain of losing her best friend was compounded by the realization that Chloe had been living a life so different from the one she had shown the world. For Chloe's followers, her death sparked a period of reflection. How much of her life had been real? How much of the person they had admired was simply a carefully curated image? Chloe's death highlighted the toxic pressures of influencer culture. where the pursuit of perfection often overshadowed genuine connection and personal well-being. Her tragic end exposed the dark side of the social media world, where appearances could be deceiving, and personal struggles were often hidden behind a polished facade. Chloe's followers, many of whom had once envied her life, now saw her death as a stark reminder that behind every filtered post and sponsored image, there were real human beings with complex emotions, flaws, and challenges. As the dust settled and the shock wore off, the question remained: how well do we truly know the people we idolize online? Was Chloe's death an inevitable consequence of the pressures of influencer life? Could things have been different if she had opened up more about the struggles she faced behind the scenes? These are the questions that lingered long after the trial, leaving her followers to reflect on the line between the perfect online persona and the complexities of real life. It was a stark lesson that sometimes the people we admire the most may be hiding their darkest secrets behind the filter of their social media profiles.